Hello again. In my previous video, I had said that most people don't even know the first thing about languages or human language in general because they never studied linguistics. And if this subject interests you, I highly recommend that you check out the video in the description below. Today, then, since before I said most people don't know the first thing about language, I thought I would make a video on the second thing about language. This is the second thing that you should know about foreign language, or rather human languages in general. And that is quite simply that languages or human language is an instinct. Language is an instinct. What does that mean? Well, it means that speaking languages, understanding languages, using languages is an integral part of our biology. It's built into our brain. It means that language is not man-made. Language is not something we came up with or invented. Someone's like, oh, I have an idea. We should start, making sounds with our mouth, and then we could talk about what we're thinking about using this. That didn't happen. Language is an instinct. You can go all around the world and, there's all different kinds of cultures, but language is not cultural. All humans use language. And you might think, well, isn't it like maybe, there's some kind of tribes somewhere out in a remote location who don't have a language, or maybe they have a very primitive communication system? No, there's no such thing. All humans have language, and it's just as sophisticated as we might consider languages like English or French or Spanish or Chinese. All languages are equal in the degree of complexity and the ability to use the language to communicate complex thoughts. So language is an instinct. But some people might say, wait a second. How can language be an instinct? I mean, I was born, let's say you were born in the United States, and then everyone around you was speaking English, so then you started speaking English. But it's not like English was an integral part of your biology. Like if you had been born in Vietnam, then you would speak Vietnamese, right? You wouldn't speak English. So how is language an instinct? Well, this is a common confusion that people have. You're confounding human language with a particular language or languages. A language is an instinct. No particular language is integral to our biology, but language in general is. Now, how does that work? You might say, well then where do languages come from? And of course, it is true now, you will acquire the language of people around you, but you might be thinking, well, yeah, but what about before there were languages? Like, how did that work? And I'll tell you, where humans come together, and if they don't have a common language, a new language will be born. So this is how strong our language instinct is. And you can see this throughout history when two populations of people came together and they didn't know each other's language. Maybe they speak vastly different languages that are completely unrelated. When they start communicating, a new language will be born. And you can say, well, isn't that just kind of like a pigeon? Maybe I take some words of your language, some words of my language, decide to mix them together. Yes, but new languages are still born from this process. And you can actually see an amazing example of a new language being born in this one situation, or one, how do I say, this has been documented, where I believe it was in Nicaragua, a bunch of deaf children were brought together, and they didn't know sign language, and they didn't have any ability to access the language which was spoken around them because it was a spoken language. But these children, over time, developed a sign language of their own, which became a fully fledged language. Now, this is just one other example of how strong our language instinct is that, yes, when there is no language spoken around us, a new language will be born if we don't have that language already around us. Of course, for most of us, almost 99.9% all of us on the globe, there already is a language spoken around us, so that doesn't really apply. I just thought I would clear that question up because it makes some people doubt whether language is an instinct or not, which it most definitely is. Another thing which you might think is, well, how can anything so complicated as language be an instinct? If you start to think more about language with all the rules, the grammar, the vocabulary, the nuance, and all of this, how could something so complicated as language possibly be an instinct? But I would like you to think about the animal kingdom and think about how we're the only animals who talk about things and read things in books. So all the other animals that you see around the globe, all of their behavior is determined by instinct, isn't it? And some animals have very complicated behavior. They make very complicated structures. I think about like even an animal which is as simple as a spider. You must imagine a spider has a really tiny brain and a very simple nervous system, right? And yet they make such intricate webs, such intricate structures. But you'll never see a spider, looking up like on the internet, 10 great ways to make a web or something like this. No, they just know it. It's inside of them. It's part of their instincts. And you can see other examples of animals that make great big structures or have very complicated life cycles and so on and so forth. But we do accept that this is all just determined by their instincts, where sometimes it's hard for us to believe as humans that we still have any instincts left. Well, the language instinct is perhaps our most important instinct. And if this subject interests you or confuses you or whatever, I highly recommend you read the book by author Steven Pinker, The Language Instinct, in which he really talks about all of this. It's a great read. So this was the second thing that you should know about language, is that language is an instinct. And it's something that all humanity shares. And this instinct makes us want to communicate with each other through human language, but also determines our ability to acquire our language, because that's part of the instinct, is our ability to acquire other languages. There's no other animal in the world which can acquire languages, only humans. And that's an important part of your instinct, because I would like you to believe, well, some people think, well, only children can acquire languages. But it's in your biology to acquire languages. So no matter how old you get, you still have this instinct to acquire new languages. And if you can tap into it, then you can make your foreign language studies go a lot better, a lot more smoothly, and achieve your goals more effectively. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and see you in another video soon.